everybody? Welcome to the Nook on our own channel.
Yay.
That's new, right? Who thought that was ever going to happen? Well, some people kind of did. I kind of thought we've been talking about doing it for a while, and it happened. So there's that.
So spread the word.
Yeah. And if I'm not posting on Facebook, somebody remind me because I might not do that.
And what is the channel again?
The Nook.
It's the Nook.
The Nook.
Yeah. Well, we haven't gotten that yet, but we need 100 subscribers before we can get the Nook. So please subscribe.
Really?
Now. Yeah.
Google.
That's it. If you have 100, then you can get a vanity URL.
Oh,
so
like slash. Okay,
Yeah,
right.
yes.
But regardless,
Yes.
the channel's up.
Yes.
It's just a series of numbers and letters and,
Right.
and nonsense.
Yeah, but it's hard to find though.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So 100 people got to subscribe to. Do that. It's not too hard. Like that's like about 5 calories and maybe like a minute and a half out of your time. Please, thank you.
That was so cute.
So all right. So what happened to what the guy's name is? Kaepernick.
I have no idea what the names are.
Kaepernick. All right. So football player, San Francisco 49ers. You know, beginning of a football game, pretty much any sporting event. What do you got to do? They want you to do the national anthem. He didn't want to do it. And his explanation being essentially he's not really proud of the country. He's saying that there are black men being shot by the police and there aren't any repercussions towards the police officers.
People are getting away with murder.
This accurate. Yeah, and that's actually
what
he said was they're getting away with murder.
Yeah.
And so...
Was he just blacks? It was other minorities.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and and white people too are being shot by the cops too. So it's not just that, but the point being is that like he's upset that there's no justice being served for people being murdered by guys with badges and titles and guns. But then after that, what happened? Right? It was, well, you're not an American. You didn't do the Pledge of Allegiance at a football game. That's not very American. You must be a terrorist. That sort of like line, right? So like that, like what would, like if somebody, like say if you're talking to somebody about this, like Chrissy, like how would you respond if they're like, well, I don't think he's like American enough because he didn't do the national the national anthem, like.
Well, I guess that if you look at the essence of what America is supposed to be, originally it was about freedom to say what you want. That I don't know, I want to say proud of them. I'm like, that's awesome. You go, don't you? You sit down. I don't say the Pledge of Allegiance or sing it anymore either because similar things but different,
Right.
More broader than that, than just police brutality, And I'm like, okay, this is great. It's going to get in, we're going to have conversations about it. I thought it was great.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody were to talk to me about it, I'm like, yeah, you know what? I used to be there too. I used to be at the same place somebody else thought that, well, you're not an American if you don't, say the Pledge of Allegiance, if you don't put, you're not patriotic. And I'm like, but I've changed. I'm not there anymore because I see that I was kind of brainwashed into all this stuff, So I bring it back into me that I was there before, and I understand, but I'm not there anymore, and I totally can understand with why he did that, and that
Right.
Yeah,
to me it
you have
was
to be out of it to connect with it. For
yeah,
sure.
yeah. So, anyways, nobody's asked me that,
Okay.
but they have in the past about something. They didn't ask me about this particular situation,
Right.
but I've been asked before. It's about nationalism and patriotism, and it's just I used to be there. I was there.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a funny thing that essentially it's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then, like have the flag up there and like they play the song and it's funny that almost every country has like some sort of national anthem or something, but it's nowhere near as prevalent and all the time and everywhere as it is in the States. And it's very weird that that's become a thing in the United States. That the whole purpose of of America originally, or so we're told, or some people had this idea and others did not, that you were allowed to just simply do what you wanted to do, and and they, and express yourself the way you wanted to, regardless, and that was what you could do. There wasn't like really a backlash for saying like, I don't agree with what the government's doing, I don't want to. And it made me think that like, and I'm not one to really like idolize the founding fathers too much, but I was sitting there thinking like, how would like Jefferson or Thomas Paine or like maybe like Patrick Henry like respond to like this sort of like nonsense? Yeah. Like, oh, this guy isn't playing the Pledge of Allegiance, he's not American. Like, would they be like, yeah, burn his jersey on YouTube? Yeah, like I don't see that happening.
They would defend him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But we're in that mentality of like of the exact opposite. And
well, I don't think in state school we're given a real, true lesson or being taught really what freedom was about and the founding fathers coming together, what the message really was about.
Yeah.
I think it's been distorted. So, folks, you could tell somebody that now and be like, oh, no, fuck, that's not right.
Yeah.
Because they don't really know the true story behind what happened.
And it's very interesting.
I expressed that well, but
no, that's actually, that's really good. Is that they
what they really were doing and what we're taught are two different things.
Yeah,
Well, it's skewed.
But I used to have a real emotional tie to the story of our founders, and even the national anthem of the bombs bursting in air, and then the next day the flag was still there. Oh my gosh, I actually used to cry every time I listened to it. I'm like,
aww.
Oh my God, how duped was I?
Was the ends of the hair like standing out?
Yes, it was.
I'm being facetious.
No, but I was. I'm telling you, because I had this visceral
association.
I did to being
give you a sense
freedom.
Of pride
it did, yes, and it's
acceptance.
Like,
Yeah.
So
because
sounds like a religious event.
And I'm like, oh my God, I was so duped because I was.
Yeah,
I
we
was.
all were at some point. I stopped doing it when I married an Englishman and he came to the States, and we would go to the different events for our children at schools specifically. And before everything, they would do the Pledge of Allegiance. And my ex-husband would sit down and he was just, I can say that, I'm American.
Yeah.
And everyone would look at him, and I would sit with him. And I was totally okay with it. But that was probably the beginning for me.
I like, to me, like, it was on and off in high school. Like, some days I would just, like, in the morning I would just stand just because. I'm like, whatever, like, okay, I'm just going to stand here. I'm probably not going to say it. And then every now and then you'd have a teacher that would, like, call me out and, like, well, why isn't it a thing? But it became, like, a thing in my high school at the time that it was almost, like, there was almost, like, a legal issue about it because, like, some girl, like, always refused to do it. And, like, it became, like, a thing. So they eventually, like, with me, I was just kind of, like, I obviously have, similar attitude that I have today, except I was much more probably ruder about things back then, as teenagers tend to be. But
oh, Mike, I can't see you.
But
maybe just express yourself a little more defiantly, maybe.
Yeah. So that was you kind of me on and off, and then like it became like it was a real like question of
obedience versus
and then
really
the principle of it, and then later, I don't know, Christy, if you had this when you ran for office. Did you ever have like go to a meeting and like some sort of like, I don't know, Tea Party thing or something, and they would do like the Pledge of Allegiance before we got started? Did you have like an issue with that? Do you like, because I mean, at that point, were you okay with like standing for it and all that, or were you at a different stage?
I don't remember when it happened. I really don't. I don't remember if it was. I mean, because when I was running for office, I obviously still believed in a minimal state, you know. So, and I probably still had a love affair with ooh, that was a big chunk.
Bombs bursting in air.
Right? That was good. That was great. Yeah, I still had a love affair with the story of bombs bursting in air. We beat them. We beat their butts, and now we're free. and we're great. We're
Lady be speaking German if we
Right, no, I
or
don't
something.
think I went there. I don't think I ever went there.
That one kills me all the time.
No, I don't think I
Sprechen
went
Sie
there.
Deutsch?
Yeah.
It's like, really?
Yeah, I was never really into the military. Although I did think I did believe in a not a standing army, but a militia.
Right.
So to defend, for defense only.
Well, that's something that I mean,
Yeah.
that is, it's kind of a different discussion, but that's something that
Yeah.
occurs naturally. Like in the case of like defending like your community,
Yeah.
there's going to be some people who are like, hey, should we just like get together
Yeah,
and like
just-
target shoot every
Right.
weekend or once a month or something, just so we know what we're doing in case something bad happens. So yeah, that's like in itself, like the idea of having a militia is like not like a status thing. I don't think, you know.
I don't know when the flag thing went away. I don't know if that.
Right.
I probably didn't like it when I was running for office because it was
Yeah.
very anti.
I
Pledging to a flag, yeah, I probably didn't. So, anyways.
Yeah, because like my experience with that was like, so I was like going to a couple like Tea Party meetings, right? And I was like running for Congress, and they wanted me to like speak. And it was funny that like they were like, oh, you know, everyone runs, we're gonna do like the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, fuck, they're not gonna vote for me
Oh no.
anymore. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way,
Under
like
his
they're
breath,
gonna like.
He said they're not gonna vote for
Yeah,
me.
yeah, there-
So
yeah.
you consciously knew
Yeah.
at that time that you were doing something that you were fighting against, what you were wanting to be elected to do.
Yeah, yeah,
So
that
you
like
were-
I had like it was very conflicted. It was like, okay, I should stand and like do this whole rigmarole so they're gonna think I'm not such a bad guy. But then on the other hand, like you know, then I'd be completely selling myself out.
What did you
in a way.
do?
The first time I stood, but I didn't say it.
Mhm.
I just kind of stood there. I'm just like, and the second time, like, I think I've mentioned it before that me running for Congress made me an anarchist. So the second meeting I went to, I just didn't even stand up. I was just like, okay, you know, I'll talk to everybody, like, you know, but I'm not, you know, like.
That's kind of like being with a group of people who are assaulting somebody, but you haven't thrown a blow,
Mm-hmm.
but you're there with them. You're still kind of guilty through association in some sense, right? Is that what you were concerned about? That they would see you in that way?
Well,
Even if you weren't directly putting your hand over your heart and saying it, you still were. Because you weren't defying it. Sitting down would have been clear.
yeah. So like, yeah, the second time around, I guess, you know, like I had,
Fuck this.
yeah, I had, you know, grown a pair, so to speak, and was like not even going to stand up. But the first time around, I was like,
into your bear.
or grew in, yeah, there you go. So you know, so there's my thing about it, which story is that there's no such thing as an honest politician. I'm sitting there running for office, and I'm standing there not believing in it, you know, but I'm sitting there standing there, I'm like, God, this is fucking like, you know, like I don't like this at all. I don't feel comfortable, you
That's a
know.
whole new level to it. That's
Yeah, and
What a beautiful moment.
yeah, so there's you know, so that's something they do, like, you know, before sporting events, before all that, and it's
It's everything. It's PTA, it's graduation,
mhm,
it's the beginning of school.
mhm.
America.
Merkel.
I mean,
yeah, apostrophe
you're
M-E-R-C.
anywhere on a state property, whether it's a museum or a park, the flag is raised at the beginning of the day, the flag is brought down.
Mhm.
They do the national anthem in the morning, they do taps at night. You
Yeah.
can't get away from it.
And you know what? It's not mandatory. People are doing this out of the story that they believe they should do it.
And how do you
Mhm.
come
You
out of
know?
that comfort zone into real life?
You talk. This guy does this at a football game, and you have conversations about it, and you start whacking away at the story that's. Yeah, I mean,
So, does anybody know anything else about this guy except for that he stood up and he obviously didn't do the Pledge of Allegiance and now he's being targeted? Is he affiliated with any other organizations? Has he protested? Has he been to, I mean, what's this guy's story? So is he
yeah.
genuinely doing this, or is he another mole that's being placed to stir the shit pot before the elections on November? Honestly,
you're
Yeah,
right.
no,
You're
that-
right.
that's-
It was
seems
very timely.
conspiratorial, but
Yeah.
That's a legitimate question,
Yeah.
but
he makes $19 million a year.
Exactly.
That's a whole lot of money to flush down the toilet for having a fucking conscience.
Is it?
Would-
You gonna flush
Unless-
down the toilet? I mean, his contract.
No, I'm sorry. I should have reworded
Yeah.
that. I don't that's how it would be perceived, as if he were throwing his career away and all that
Yeah.
money.
Oh.
I don't see it that way. I
Yeah.
would prefer to stand
Yeah.
for my rights and my beliefs than
I would
money.
doubt it's in
Yeah.
his contract that he has to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, because he's got a
It
contract.
doesn't, but they're going
Yeah.
to, that's all gonna change. But what I'm saying is he's gonna stir the pot.
Yeah.
So, I just asking, that's all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the worst question to ask.
It's not
Be-
implausible. I mean, it's
No.
possible.
Because
What do you think, John? What were you gonna say?
I think
Oh,
it's
sorry.
I think it's kind of probably just a natural thing that's an opportune moment to create a bunch of madness around. So, like, yeah, some things are orchestrated from the ground up, and some things are organic. And I think the establishment just runs with it. Oh, here's an opportunity to splinter the public.
Yeah.
Oh, here's another point to splinter the public. You know, splinter them in so many different ways that it appears there's nothing conceivable that's agreeable. Nothing that can agree upon.
Fair enough.
And it's mixed news. They want hype, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, did more commercial spots or
Mhm.
watch?
But after all that, how, being on Facebook myself, and we three are, I know that you're not, John, you see video after video
Mm.
where people's responses to that, and it's like the football team's coach is like dictating, you know, to the team. They're all sat down, they're all like listening to the coach, and you have to do this. If you're going to be on the team, you have to do that.
Oh, I
If you're
didn't
going to be
hear
on the
any
team,
of those.
you
Are
have
you
to do
serious?
this.
Okay.
Right.
Wow. Okay.
So, what was I getting with that? What I'm trying to, I guess what I was getting with that is it's just this guy is standing up for something that I think is genuinely respectable in some
Mhm.
sense, whether you agree with it or not. Based on the Constitution or the amendment, he has the ultimate right to do that, and you arguing that is violating that. But they're doing everything to fight against that
Right.
and to
Good.
reinstill the conditioned behavior.
To what you spoke about, like the coaches talking to the team over there, telling them, "This, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that." I think that's also speaks to like the pathology of like hierarchical organizations. And the larger they get, the worse it is, right? So,
Yeah.
aside from there's some unelected elites trying to steer the world in the way that they benefit the most from. And sure, there's staged events from the ground up. There's organic events like what I think this is, and just within that, all that, you even have all the dynamics of hierarchical organization working. Yeah, I think
It would just be interesting to see if he calculated this, you know, or it was just I'm going to do this, and you know, he could have been. It could have been nothing noticed. I mean,
right.
and somebody noticed it and made a big deal about it.
Mm.
So
Oh,
it'd just
very
be
true.
interesting to
Good
see
point.
what his. I don't know. So maybe we'll find out. I kind of likened some of it to going to church. I went and
Well, it
I did.
is.
Well,
I mean,
no,
like
it's going
Larkin
to
Rose
church-
did a really good video
Yeah,
on
I
it. That
went-
like it's a religion.
But I
you
went
know.
to surprise my mom at church one time. It was for Mother's Day, and I went in there and I surprised her because she was like,
You didn't burn to death.
I didn't burn. The walls didn't fall down, and yeah, I said.
Well,
she was like really surprised.
you weren't exposed to the holy water or direct sunlight.
No. Well, no, they did.
Oh,
And
wow.
I didn't,
You
yes, and I
didn't-
didn't.
not even a
burn.
blister?
No, nothing.
Not even a blister. Nice.
No, but I grew up in the Catholic religion, and you know all these things, all the whole thing, and it's all in my mind, and I'm thinking I should say it, and I'm like, I can't, I don't believe it. So it's that same thing when somebody goes through, for me, from nationalism to non-nationalism is the same as religion to not believing the religion anymore. Same thing. It's just
But what is the
brainwashed.
basic theory for teaching
Yeah.
children? Repetition, memorization, repetition.
Well, that's how they
memorization.
learn too.
Right,
Because
but
people
with
learn
anything,
that way.
you keep doing, you keep going
Yeah.
to church, you keep
Yeah.
singing the hymns, you keep
Apathy,
reading the book.
obedience, and conformity.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't church really government? You
Well,
know?
for-
so
yeah,
really,
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
government mimics, the church.
It's
the way
power, right? So the
Yeah.
seats of power used to hide in churches or behind
Yeah.
the steeples, so to speak, and then it went to like state capitals, so big state buildings were the power, the biggest buildings in the land, and where the power was behind. And now it's skyscrapers or corporations, So it's all the same beast, though. Power.
Power.
Yeah, I had to, like, when that whole, like, when it first started out, like, the first couple days when it was, like, all anybody could talk about all the time, I go into auto parts place. I needed to pick up a couple things. And they had the radio on there, and it was a radio show that's been on, for anybody who lives in San Diego County, 1015
Not where we are.
KGB. Whatever. Anyway, so KGB, there's a show that's been on since the same three people have been doing a show since
KGB?
KGB.
I never heard of it.
It's a really old radio
Okay.
station. They used to have way too much fun, like when the Soviet Union was still around, because it was like 1015 KGB, But anyway, so that was a long time ago. But there's a show's Dave Shelley and Chance on. It's been on since we were since I was 8 years old. Like, I mean, that's it. People I grew up with. So it's been on forever, and I have no idea how old they are. But if they were started that show when
They're pretty fucking old.
Yeah, and so thing is that I guess she was taking a call or something, and she's all like, well, we just want to know what you guys think about the whole Pledge of Allegiance thing. And one guy calls up and he goes, yeah, well, I think really, he really should do it, and people should do it because it really, I mean, what's the harm out of it? No. And she's all like, yeah, I really agree with you. And as a matter of fact, 6 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance on air. And I was just like, oh my God, the fascism comes in. That's how that is. If you turn on the radio and you're hearing nationalistic ba 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 when you're driving to work in the morning.
Isn't that the purpose of media?
I wouldn't say the purpose of media, but the
Okay, purpose is a bad word, but isn't that to be expected from media?
I mean, the way the media is now, for sure. Yeah.
I think it's exceptionalism gone awry. It's like we are this beacon of freedom for the rest of the world. We have to all step in line. It's
Manifest destiny.
Yeah.
Right, but I don't know what station this was, what channel. This is just something I saw on Facebook as I was scrolling down. Did not give it too much attention. Don't know what this woman's name is or who she represents or works for, but she was giving a whole talk about this gentleman that plays for the San Francisco football team. And going beyond who he is and saying, he's a mulatto, he's mixed, he's black and white, he was adopted by a white family, basically saying that he should know better, he was brought up by white parents.
What?
And brought into
It's like no matter what.
Right.
That's not racist at all.
No. And everybody's like, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Wow.
Justifying that. It's just crazy.
That is crazy.
It's crazy. And I think, what do you think? My opinion is what it comes down to is just not seeing something, and maybe I see stuff all the time. I'm like, it makes sense to me. But then going and researching it and learning more about it and then having a judgment on it and not just taking it for what it is. And I think that's what people are not willing to do.
It takes time.
Because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable. Especially when 10 out of 10 of your friends don't agree with you.
Yeah.
You have to completely reinvent yourself. You have to make new friends. You have to have new ideas, new places that you spend time.
I've been working on some of them. There's a couple of friends that are leaning towards my direction just because,
Beat him into submission.
I kind of think so sometimes. They're just like, come on, this is bullshit. But, that's exactly it. Nobody wants to believe that maybe he's got a good point. Maybe there's something seriously wrong going on, and stand up for the pledge of or for the national anthem before a football game. That's your protest of hey, I'm not gonna say everything's good and everything's wonderful because it sure ain't. There's no liberty and justice for all going on. Okay, well, all right. If that's what they're saying, why would you stand up and repeat that when you don't believe that's true?
Well, let's go beyond the whole fluffy feeling part of this whole situation, how it affects you, how you respond to it. Let's get down to the nuts and bolts, which is the freedom of speech, correct?
Yeah.
Let's just be specific about that.
Okay.
Let's deal with it from that point of view. What is your opinion now? And people argue it still.
Yeah.
They've got that, it's presented in front of them. What's offered to them as an American citizen and he's like, exercising that right, and they're still like fighting against him because he's not doing what's agreeable to them. The point of me sharing that is that it's just about feelings, it's about emotion, it's not about what's really, you know, I wouldn't say right, I think right is a really bad word to use, but what's available, what's been set out. You could express that better than me, I'm sure. Find a better word for that.
You're doing a great job right now, though, because,
But they don't take the time to even look into that.
Yeah, and that's, you know, I mean, you know, this could almost like go into, you know, education quite like really easily, and without like going too much of on tangent into that, you know, in school you're very seldom given like primary sources. You're giving the opinion of somebody on a primary source.
Oh yeah.
You know, and like
hearsay.
Yeah.
I know nothing about that.
You know, and it used to be like quite often like, if you're, you know, if like whatever class you're covering a subject, here's this book on the subject. So what are we doing with this book? You're reading the whole thing, and that's the thing. And I'm not saying that's necessarily the right way to learn, but you get a full comprehension.
Can't we get Cliff Notes?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, Cliff Notes. I'm okay with. You know,
You didn't do that, did you?
it's like,
I did.
I
always read the Cliff Notes. I never read the books.
I'm okay with Cliff Notes, I suppose, but you know, if it's like objective, but like the way you're taught in school, it's somebody's opinion of a primary source, you know.
Yeah, but
rather than just like a shortened version of like this is the gist of the argument.
An opinion of an opinion. It's like it's all opinions. It's like
Let's give the facts,
That's
people.
right.
Come on.
Yeah.
So I need to go back in time and observe it myself, you know.
Well, I went to 4 high schools in my last high school where I graduated. Going to 4 high schools had many, many credits. I could graduate already. But Virginia requires that you take government class in your last year of school. So I had to take government. And I remember my teacher always said, bad electors are elected by those who do not vote. And that stuck in my head for the longest time because I did not choose to educate myself on what the fuck she was talking about and whether or not she made sense. I took her word for it.
Right.
I'm like, I gotta vote.
Got to vote.
Gotta vote.
I was like
Because that asshole's gonna get in if I don't like exercise my right, you know? But it's just sad. It's just really sad.
That was kind of like the meme of like I'm just gonna vote harder next time.
You know what? I actually don't think it's sad that. Well, it's sad, but I was actually
It's
really
just
glad.
heartening.
No, but I was
Sorry.
really glad to see him do it because I'm like, yes,
Who?
they're gonna talk about it. This guy,
Oh, right.
you know, it's like,
make it a conversation.
yes, it's gonna be
Sorry.
a great conversation.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's the, you know, like it.
There's a lot of people ready to
Yes.
jump ship onto. It's sort
So
of,
it's
sort of
like-
the canvas is just kind of people
Right.
are buckling under it now
Yeah.
because of, well, shit, you can't stop
You
it
can't-
now.
right.
There really isn't
Yeah.
anything wrong with it. I'm just not comfortable with it. And that's
Right,
it.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
The whole backing out of the conversation.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's a good thing that. Yes, it's sad that people have certain.
It's definitely beneficial to.
But it's really
to moving
great
forward.
that he did it. So I'm really glad you did it. I don't
Me
know
as
your
well. I
name,
commend you
whoever
for
you
it.
are. I'm really glad you did
Bravo.
it. Yes, bravo. Yeah, I'm glad that the conversation's out there.
And and you mentioned that like that you didn't stand for the national anthem partly because your husband did.
No, but that's when I started making sense to me.
Right,
Like,
right,
he's not.
right.
I'm like, well, why am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What am I standing up for?
Yeah.
I have children who are half American, half British. I'm like, what is that? They're half me, half you.
Right.
They're not fucking half
Right.
American, half British, you know?
Right. And but I guess where it's going with that is like lots of people don't stand for it. That's the thing. You say like the big thing like, oh, there's one guy, how dare he? No. I know a lot of people that don't.
Really?
If you go to like a sporting event, you look around. There's plenty of people who don't for whatever reason.
Oh, I never did.
Yeah, which I haven't been to too many of them, but I mean I remember looking around and being like, well, there's a number of people here who, for whatever reason, aren't standing. I don't know. Maybe they physically can't, and that's the thing. I don't know.
It's like a 10%, but
Yeah.
beyond that.
I don't, but I do think it's like it's this whole thing by people that are angry at him for doing it. They make it seem like, well, that's a minority, and no matter what, like most people are still going to do it. I mean, don't sell it short. If one guy's not doing it, we know how, for the most part, how humanity works. If one person is or is not doing something, there's more than one person also doing that. You know, and little things start very small and they get bigger. You know.
So maybe what you're saying underneath that is just don't feel alone. You're not alone.
Yeah.
Choose to do this.
Bingo.
There are people who support you.
Oh God, we didn't talk about robot sex.
Oh, we're not
What
done.
about robot sex?
Ooh.
What? I heard something about robot sex. I thought you said something about robot sex. Did I miss something?
I'm trying. I can't.
Okay, so all right. Whew, I don't know. This is kind of like a brick through a window. I don't know if we can pull this one.
Brick through window.
Well, like I mean,
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah.
How can we transition from like national anthem to robot sex? I don't know. Should we just?
Ooh, that would.
Should
be
we just
weird.
wrap it
That's
up? I
almost
mean, I
like-
should
You're a
just.
good boy.
That's
You'll
almost
get some
like-
robot sex.
Do you stand for the? Yeah, I don't know. We can't transition from that one to robot sex, and we've pulled some really rough
Where's
ones.
Stephen
but
Hallman? We
yeah,
need you.
yeah, Steve would have.
Steve,
yeah,
we
yeah.
need you. We miss you.
We miss you,
We
Steve.
miss you, Steve.
We'll see you soon,
Good night,
and
everyone.
everybody else. Thank you for watching.
Good
Bye.
Good night.